the cloud.
Yes, to the cloud.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first of 2 sessions dealing with conflict resolution in the SCA. I've been asked to actually host this particular session. My name is, the full SCA name is Mahadi bin Hakim. I am going to be doing this along with Master Richard Fairborn. Richard is waiting up here in the distance. Thank you very much. To give you a general idea of how much experience I've actually had in this particular idea.
Mahadi, your audio is breaking up. I'm sorry to.
Okay, no, oh wow, you're right. I just saw.
It's actually better now. It was, but then when you told him, it got better for some reason.
Can't hear anything.
Oh, and now you're muted, Mahadi. You're muted.
You're muted. Yeah, you need to unmute yourself.
All I'm seeing
There
is.
we go.
There you go. You're good now.
I am okay. Am I okay?
Yes, you're
Start
good.
Talking.
Okay, I'll start talking to see. Okay.
Okay, now it sounds good.
Okay, good, because it's saying something weird. But moving forward, my experience in the SCA involves being a double peer. I made a knight in 1994. I became a member of the Order of Defense in 2016. I served as Crown Once the Order both in 1997 and 2006. I had the pleasure of serving as a landed baron, barony of the Steppes from 2004 to 2007. I've also had the pleasure of actually being a judge in 3 separate courts of chivalry in the SCA, as well as mediating a handful of disputes during that time. So yes, I've got a bit of experience in this. Master Rich, would you like to introduce yourself and explain your credentials?
Hi, I'm His Excellency Master Richard Fairborn. I've been a seneschal for 2 baronies, 2 shires. I've been regional seneschal and kingdom seneschal. I've been ER deputy replacement seneschal. I've also held every office except for treasurer at a local level in a group. And my ultimate conflict resolution is when I actually had to talk someone down from holding a knife at someone's throat. So I have experience with that. So that's my credentials. So okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Purpose of this presentation, okay, we came where we were asked to do this primarily because dealing with conflict is something that most officers have to deal with, whether local or kingdom. Such they should be aware of what is required according to regular SCA rules in terms of process of resolving particular issues. Let's see. In this, it is in. Let's see if I can. I'll see if I can find my PowerPoint. Here we.
Mahadi, you might turn down your volume on your speaker. I think that's the reason you're cutting out.
Okay. Come here, speaker. Okay. I'm telling it to do this. Come here.
You're already sounding better. You're not cutting out.
Okay, probably because I'm not saying anything.
Yeah. Well, no, but yeah, you were cutting out before. And I think it was just your speaker was so loud. It was interfering with your mic on your computer.
Okay, then that should actually solve the thing. Let's get this thing. Okay, come here down. Okay, and yeah, come here, you. We'll admit you. Now I know the problem my pastor's having with this thing. Come here, dog. Okay, come here, dog. Why is it sit there telling me we're okay? That went away. Okay, that's the problem. And so here we go. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's what it's doing. Okay. Wait, this is me and my weird.
We can see your PowerPoint, but we're also seeing, yeah,
I'm
if you
seeing
just
this
close
thing.
that tab, yeah, that should
Mhm.
work.
It almost looks
Thing go
like your
away.
left and right click are flipped.
There you go.
Yeah, this is, okay, good. Now it's doing what I wanted to do. Okay, then. And let me just reduce this and get it out of my way. Good. Okay. So Study class is reviewing principles of conflict resolution and rules governing conflict resolution in SCA documents. Hopefully we can also discuss just a have help us actually resolve conflict in the SCA. I generally like starting presentation with a general definition of what it is we're talking about, because people have so many different things they mean when we're talking about trying to resolve problems. From the two definitions you see on the left side, I've cobbled together the working definition for our discussion. Resolution process of finding energy and antagonistic state ideas, interests, and opinions. One of the first things to pick up from that explanation is notice that emotion, pretty emotional conflict resolution, tend to try to counter these things like something that you go to court. It's all dispassionate fact. But the truth is that most of the conflicts that we get involved with always involve matters of opinion and how people feel, which is one of the reasons why we have so many particular problems trying to solve these particular problems. Richard, if you'd like to add any particular detail to that?
No, I'm good.
Okay, he says he's good on that regard. Okay. From our actual official documents, ooh, you slid too far. Come here, you. Yeah. Why do you pay? Okay. This is one of the earliest statements that we actually have in Gapora that deals with the reality of having to deal with conflict resolution. While society is devoted to courtesy, trustworthiness, and responsibility, we realize from day one that tensions and disputes are going to arise. As such, they had to make into Gapora the methods by which we're going to address conflicts. It could not be stated so specifically that they can actually get nitpicky and deal with every individual problem. It had to be stated in such a way as we can assume people are going to be grown up. They're going to try to resolve it if they have a true desire to actually resolve the issue, which actually helps bring up another particular point about conflict resolution. If we
Rob,
want,
just
yes?
a second. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Uh-huh.
There you go. Lean closer into the computer, because
Okay.
what is happening, I think your mic is not picking up everything, and so what's coming out is a little garbled.
Okay. Oh, see,
There you
okay.
see, I can hear you perfectly now.
Okay, you can hear me perfectly now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mahadi,
Yeah.
something else. I'm listening to it. It starts falling apart when you pick up speed. I think
Okay.
your signal is having trouble processing the audio when you start putting a lot of words out.
Okay. Then
So
I will talk slower.
sorry.
No problem. Okay. So let's see where was I? Okay. Where was I in this particular this thing? Okay, then let me go to this one. Since this also comes from one of our official documents, in this case, King Seneschal's handbook, it speaks very early on one of the things that Seneschals are aiming to actually do, in this case, promote peace, harmony, and prosperity. The key to actually doing this job is having the wherewithal to listen to your members and being patient with them. We live in a digital age. We live at a time when some people want problems dealt with yesterday. It is imperative when trying to address many of these issues that you give people enough time to feel like they've been listened to. Okay. And one of the most important factors is assume that anything that you say is going to become public. You may feel a
Mahadi,
temptation.
I'm going to interrupt you one more time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And we might need to just switch up a little bit.
Okay.
I think what's happening is, I think Iva was right. I think the internet signal currently at your residence is low because it's still cutting out.
Okay.
Okay.
You can try turning off your camera. That will cut the amount of data coming off your computer substantially.
Yeah, we don't need to see your face necessarily. That's fine.
Okay.
Try cutting your video feed.
Okay, then let me stop my video.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. How is it coming out at this point? Oh well, we won't know until you know. Keep giving me feedback as I roll through this and see if the video actually cut out a bit. Okay. Moving on to the next. Okay. From Gapora, they're pretty explicit as to how the board gets involved with conflicts. Okay, the board is considered to be the final court of appeal. If we have any particular problems in the SCA, the board is going to be the last group we go to in order to deal with it. As such, they actively encourage members to make every effort to work out disputes. You're encouraged to do as low level as possible. If it can be solved in home, that's great. If it can't, they really prefer that it be moved up slowly, okay, step by step, instead of looking for immediate solutions. Again, what they encourage anybody who's actually involved to do, okay, is reach a settlement and not actually get involved at whatever your level of the organization is. If, for example, you're a local officer and somebody brings a big problem to you, you're actively encouraged to see if you can solve it outside the officer office if possible. If your office does get involved, okay, fine. You're going to work through it slowly, okay, and work with it with everybody with the interest towards creating a solution to the problem for everybody. If it doesn't work out at your particular level, fine, let it move upward. But you generally want people taking time to try to solve it, because taking time generally means you will come up with a solution that will satisfy most people, okay? Instead of having the thing that generally takes place with people, we generally find problems escalating to higher levels. And once it escalates at higher levels, we're going to be more likely to have people dissatisfied with the overall results. Please understand, with one of the particular problems that we have when we're trying to solve problems, if we have any significantly dissatisfied people, think of it as a dissatisfied customer. That person is highly likely to decide to say, I'm out of this organization. And anybody leaving the organization in that particular state is likely to be bad press for us moving forward. Even if they are absolutely in the wrong, it's going to be bad press. Idea should be, if these people really want to solve a problem, they all feel, and anybody involved really believes that they're kind of in the right, you have to try to work them to a solution where they can actually understand what all parties have involved. I have to touch upon this particular aspect of the general section report. Hate speech is not tolerated in society by a particular stretch. Hate speech is spoken of specifically in Gapora, also in the core values. Okay. If hate speech is involved in the conflict, people have to be made aware of this particular aspect, that society is not going to back it in any particular capacity.
Mahadi?
Aye.
Hi. Okay, so your audio gets better, then it gets real bad, then it gets real better again.
Uh-huh.
I think the reason why this is an issue is because you're having to share your screen.
Okay.
Okay. So now just keep sharing your screen. If it's okay, what I'm going to do is just take over the reading and going over, if that's okay with you. And then you can talk in anytime you want. So keep your mic open. Does that sound
Okay,
good?
Okay, then. Do you want me to go to this slide right here?
Uh-huh, that's great.
Okay,
Okay,
go.
so here you have, this is from Gapora. So, and this is the Gapora for addressing grievances. So, as you can see, I'm not going to necessarily read this, but understand that for conflict resolution, even in Gapora, it's asking for the both parties involved, or the principals as it calls them, to try and find common ground, okay? And each side states what they want to do to resolve the conflict. As you know, as the person is trying to get people to work together to resolve something, you have to keep a sense of perspective and remain neutral. Don't take sides. And you also have to, when you go to the chain of command and appeal is, so give you an example is, my local senator won't let me have this job, okay? So usually that's not up to the local senator, but I'm just using that as an example. So you could appeal to, one, the regional senator, and then two, the office that you were applying. That would be, you could follow two chains at the same command. So the whole point of this is to resolve the conflict at the lowest level possible. Again, look for common ground, but you must be patient. In today's society, we're always looking for instant gratification in many cases. As we all know on this call, we all run on FCA time, and we're all volunteers, and we all do this because we enjoy it. But we have families, and we have a real job as well. At least, except for those that are retired, then you have no job, so you have no excuse. I'm just joking. You need to be patient through this process, okay? So Mahadi, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so as you can see things here, try to work things out face-to-face. Write to the person you're having difficulty with, and use formal language. So I know that's very hard with COVID right now, but you can do face-to-face with a phone call, or like we're doing today, a Zoom meeting can work, or even a meeting through Messenger through Microsoft. If that doesn't work, you can't always write, and it doesn't hurt anything to have a letter in writing to the person about what your grievance is, what the issue is. And that's something that you can share with other people whenever or if you get a response from the person you're sending your grievance to. All right, so let's go to the next slide. And Mahadi, as I said, anytime you want to chime in, just go ahead and chime in.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
No, yeah, you can go. Yeah, come here. Okay, back to this.
Okay. So now for procedures, this says write directly to the office in charge of the area in question. Okay. Now remember, this is from Gapora. So they're only dealing with, in most cases, officer decisions. Okay. And so they're asking you to write directly to the officer in charge of the area in question, and copies to the subject of the dispute to the next higher officer and the appropriate royalty or royal representative, if any. So that is if it needs, in my mind, that would be needs if it needs to go to the crown, or if it's got to even to that level yet. But you're always going to send your letter to the person that you're having the grievance with, and the next higher up on the officer change if this is an officer decision. This does not appeal or handle issues that are not officer related. Okay, so you have to remember that. So this conflict resolution process does not deal with issues that are outside of the officer or an officer's purview. Okay, so let's go to the next
Richard.
one. Yeah.
Richard, the royal representative is there in case you live in a barony to copy your real
Yeah,
officer.
you could copy the baron and baroness, yes, or it could be someone else.
And then higher up in the P chain, but it's to make sure that the nobility and your responsibility in your area is in the loop.
Right.
Mm.
So I have a question.
Okay.
This is just, I'm thinking, what if scenarios. So what happens if your dispute is with one of the royals?
Very good.
Okay, so if you have a dispute with one of the royals, so example, okay, let's say I'm going to use a personal example. The king called me a dirty, rotten fighter on the list field in front of all the fighters. Okay, that's an example. So what would you do? Well, you would first talk with the king about it. Okay, if you do not feel talking to the king about it, I would suggest you contact a peer. And usually there are plenty around. If not, you could talk to your local seneschal, someone that you feel could help you state your opinion to the crown. Not that the crown would ever say that, but they could. So you would try talking to the crown first. Okay. If that was not resolved, then I would involve in that case the kingdom seneschal. Okay. As far as going over the crown's head, the really only area over the crown is the board of directors. Okay, and you have to be careful when you go over the crown's head to the board of directors. I'm not saying you can't do it, because you certainly can, but when the board of directors gets involved, they will satisfy it to what is best for the SCA, not what's best for the crown, not what's best for you, but what is best for the SCA. And that's what you have to remember whenever you involve the board. They will do what's best for the SCA, period. And that can have a detriment to both the king and yourself, or to both parties involved. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so did I answer your question?
You did. I just, we're talking about all the different levels, and that's
fine.
Could happen. So
okay, it does. And now, if you had a question about why didn't someone get this award or something, awards are solely at the discretion of the crown, so it's not really something you can push over their heads to the board to get an award. But but that's an example of so the crown did something, you did not like it, you felt slighted by it, but you should always try and talk to the person you slighted by first. And you could do a talk and then follow up with a letter, or you could do vice versa. But if you're not comfortable, if you're not a peer, then I would ask for an advocate or another peer, either that or you could always ask your local seneschal to help you find one, or they could stand in from you. Okay. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Oh, okay. Yeah, if no one else managed to find a solution, the board will. Yeah, that's true. And as I said, I can almost guarantee you're not going to like what they come up with, because the board does not take in the personal resolve, or how the person would like it resolved.
Yeah. Also, Richard, thing take into account when the board actually gets involved in it. They are going to be taking into account what each side has really been doing up to that particular point. By the time it's actually gotten to them, it's very likely one or both sides have done some things that are kind of questionable, which means that when they create their solution, both sides are likely not going to actually decide if things are going to work out. Also, understand, you're talking about trying to resolve a conflict. Therefore, if you're leaving it in their hands, they're going to decide what's best for the SCA as a whole. Okay, they're not worried about you individually at that point. Okay.
All right. Now, His Grace Mahadi it's very true. Whenever the board gets involved, there is no quick time frame. Okay, there's an investigation, usually by a local kingdom representative, usually, and so the board will investigate. And it takes time. So my thought is that, when it's a matter of months, it is a matter of months. Usually it's 1 to 2 board meetings, and board meetings are held once a quarter. So you're probably looking at anywhere from a 3 to 6 month at least time frame for the board to resolve it. All right. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is when you have, this talks about when you're appealing the decision of an officer. That's something that you don't like. Okay, so you always start with the local officer. You try to work it out with them. Okay, then if that doesn't work, you can go to the regional officer. Okay, if that doesn't work, you can still go to the kingdom officer. If that doesn't work, you go to the crown. And then, as you can see, you have the corporate officer. That's in the back of the black star, where you can see the corporate treasurer and corporate seneschal, or society seneschal, so on and so forth. If that doesn't work, you can still go through the board of directors. Usually, if it's an officer situation, usually by the time it gets to kingdom, usually there is a solution one way or another. Rarely does an officer situation, unless it's already something that should go to the board, have to be resolved by the crown, unless it has to do with a kingdom officer, has been my experience. So, and in most of those cases, it's usually because an officer is not doing their job more than usually a decision, has been my past experience, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. Does anybody have any questions? It all seems very simple, but finding all this stuff, and I want to thank His Grace again for finding all of this and showing it to us. Oh,
That was it.
oh, is that it? Okay.
That's the last slide.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and start class 2?
I've got a question.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I want to make sure, I want to ask you guys to delineate the difference here, because I think I understand, but I want to hear it from you. If you have a situation, all right, let me put it this way. There are situations where, okay, something has gone wrong and you want the issue dealt with. And it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of this, you feel this was categorically wrong and the issue needs to be fixed by authority. And then there is the, okay, this guy and I have a problem, and I would like to try and settle our differences. I don't necessarily want to be friends with a jackass, but I would like to not have our blood pressure mutually spike when we walk in a room. Now, we understand those are different areas, but we also understand there's an overlap between them. There's a gray area. What guidance would you offer someone who is trying to differentiate between I need to settle a personal difference and no, this is categorically wrong and authority needs to come in with a sledgehammer?
Okay.
Where would you draw
So
that border?
I'll try first, and Mahadi, please chime in.
Okay.
All Gapora and kingdom law for grievances usually deals with an action by an officer. Okay. And the reason why is because that is the kingdom and corporate's purview. They have the ability to address and take action for officer decisions. It's already set up within kingdom law, in every kingdom law across all kingdoms, and in Gapora. So the first question is, when something personal was done, was it done by an officer? Okay, that would be my first question. So did the seneschal of a local group come into the local meeting and say, "You're a stupid head and I don't like you and no one should talk to you"? Okay, that is an action taken by a local seneschal, and you can absolutely escalate that up through the seneschal. Okay. So now, if on you have a Facebook post, and the Facebook post says, and I'm not trying to insult anybody here, okay? Please don't take this the wrong way. If someone says, okay, accusing a person of Asian descent, you're a mean, yellow-eyed slope, okay? That's different, okay? Now, that could be conveyed as hate speech, okay? And you would need to research that. That is something that you could take immediate action for. You could contact your seneschal, or you could I would contact the person, but that's more of conflict resolution as opposed to appealing and doing grievances and things that are for the board. Most of what the board says, if you look at the documentation, is for officer actions. General actions can be reported to the board, but that takes, there's not a direct line necessarily. Usually that would then fall within the senatorial, starting locally and going up, but that's the difference. So I hope that, Ivo, that answers your question. It's a fine line. You have to decide, you have to remember who the speaker is and what their audience is.
Mhm.
And we get in problems with that with Facebook.
Actually, it's not just from just Facebook. It's been almost all social media.
Okay. All social
Yeah.
media.
Like I said,
media.
this situation has become more exasperated considering we're now kind of trapped with this as being our only real means of actually communicating. So one of the questions we've been having to address is, so how does our speech or how do our particular actions, how can they actually affect us in the SCA? We've seen a number of examples of people actually, getting hammered, okay, in the SCA because of what they've actually done. They've done things in violation of the hate speech rule and the problems with the core values. The thing is, if I was trying to actually resolve the situation, my first question would be, do I believe, okay, that the two of us can actually work together to resolve this? Do we actually believe, do I actually trust the other person wants to work to actually resolve the problem? As soon as I come with the answer, no, okay, I don't think we can actually do it. Then we're gonna have to decide, do we have anything within the SCA that can help us resolve this? We have like I said, we have a way of dealing with the officers, and in essence, but we also have a way to actually deal with the individual. If I have a problem with somebody on a list field, if I thought I stepped in hitting him and he didn't actually call the shots, well, I have an officer I can refer to actually say, I got question this person's ability to actually fight. I talked to the various marshals, and I can actually go through a marshal court to actually resolve the issue. I would really want to first resolve it with the person I'm fighting with. I want them to actually say, no, what'd you think of the shot? I thought it was good. And if I honestly, in my heart of hearts, felt it was great, and he's going, no, I don't think it actually was, and I don't believe him, then fine. Push it through a marshal court. Once I put it in their hands, I have to accept their decision. And if I want to go through the whole crazy appeals process, I could do it, but you're going to have to understand, if it's just me and him on one list field and he's not calling shots, there is a very low possibility of the board getting involved. Okay.
Mahadi, can you, since you're out of the presentation, can you make Catriona the host again?
Okay. Okay. Wait a minute.
I don't need to be,
You don't
unless
need
you
to be?
just want
Okay.
me to be. No, it's fine.
Well, no one can see each other's faces right now. Not that we need to, but
Okay.
all we see is Zoom.
Oh, really? I see
Yeah.
everybody.
No, I can see everyone. I think
I
your
don't.
window flipped.
Okay. I'm looking.
Did my window flip?
I can see everybody.
Okay, there it is. I must have did something. Sorry.
You're okay.
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 But again, the key to, can we actually use the process really is going to come down to, do I actually trust that the other person wants to resolve a problem? When the answer to that is no, we have to decide on, what are some decent methods to actually get the thing actually resolved. Both of us have to kind of agree we want to go down this path to try to solve it. If we don't, there's going to be a major level of aggravation. It's going to be a struggle for the people who are trying to actually resolve the problem. If to try to answer Cisco's question, if I trust the person really wants to solve it, we can work it out together. When we don't think we can, if we have to bring in somebody from the outside, we really should try to bring in somebody from the outside who can actually affect change. I, for example, I'm pretty much a fan with, if there's somebody really ticking me off on Facebook and they're crossing the line with their community standards, I need to turn them over to Facebook and let Facebook deal with them. So they're putting Facebook jail for 30 days or something. Fine, that's still 30 days. I don't have to deal with them, and other people don't have to deal with them. And that's for the times when they have done something that egregious. Let's face it, if you can document that they're breaking Facebook community standards, Facebook will do something, but you've got to be able to document it.
So what do you think about just solving personal problems, personal issues as a society? I know when I was landed, people would come to me and they would say, well, I have this problem with person XYZ, and it wasn't hate speech and it wasn't anything that really anybody had done.
Mhm.
Is that our place in the SCA, or is that something that those two people need to try to figure it out on their own? What is your y'all's opinion?
Yeah, well, let's say that we share that landed thing. Yeah, when they're, by the time they're coming to us, that probably means that there's one person is telling us they have an issue. We understand that we're only getting one side of that story. Okay, if we are going to want to help them, the first thing we have to do is thank you very much for what they actually said. Tell them that I'm going to go talk to the other person and get an idea, and find out what's actually up here. And let's face it, you're likely to actually hear a similar story, but with an essential difference. At that point, you can decide, okay, do these people really want this problem solved, the two of them, or does somebody just want you on their side going after somebody else? If they are two people who just have a different perspective, then I would say work with them to help them understand each other's perspective. Even if it's a agree to disagree perspective, get them to understand. Most people aren't out to get you. You just know, you saw the example of me trying to get somebody to call my shot. Maybe a perspective issue. I thought I hit him, maybe in sound. It really wasn't a good shot. He definitely didn't feel it. There's no need to try to get his card pulled. We need to get the people to understand in that case, hey, you may not have hit him hard enough, or hit him well enough. And then just get everybody on board with especially if you're not feeling any particular pain, if it's all just you and your emotions, accept that that's actually taking place. Now, yes, that is differentiated from somebody's really causing somebody problems and they need your help. And if you do make that determination, the stories are the same, then you're going to have to get somebody to come to that particular conclusion.
So the main thing about when you get involved is if Gapora or SCA or Kingdom policy or law is broken. That is something that all of the officers and the officer chain can handle. If something was done by an officer or landed or crown, that is also something that Gapora and Kingdom law has already given you rules to what you can go by. Personal conflict, and this is where it gets really iffy, and where you, and I'm talking to everybody on here, has to decide if you see personal conflict, whether you're willing to get involved as a mediator. Some people are willing. I know His Grace is. I am. Nothing worse can be done to me. It's already happened. Same thing usually if you're landed noble, or especially if you've been crowned, you've already seen all the unfortunate bad side of the SCA, I would call it. As Kingdom Seneschal, I saw way too much bad side. But that's not usually the case. I'm just saying, we're willing to mediate and willing to do the outreach to the person that made the speech on Facebook or some other social media, saying something that's not necessarily you think appropriate, and doing talking to them and finding out whether did they realize when they posted that they were going to cause so much pain. Most of the time when I've talked to people who've done something like this, they are venting, and they're venting on their own personal page, and they're looking for validation because they can't see their friends anymore. I can't go to an event and say, Catriona, can you believe what Sir Mahadi said about me? In a private conversation. I can't do that anymore. So I'm just using that as an example, by the way.
Yeah. No, you're right, though.
But people will vent on Facebook. Is it wrong? No. But people don't always understand that once you put it in writing on Facebook, it's on there for everybody else to interpret however they want.
Mhm.
And they may never ask you what you mean. They'll just copy your message and share it, or they may like it, and that like will be seen by other people who look at that person's thing, seeing that, oh well, Richard Fairborn liked, or my name is Richard Nolan Dale. They will say Richard Nolan Dale liked this, and they'll look at the speech and they'll say, oh, he must be an avid supporter of whatever was just said. I can think many people who will like something just because they like that person, not necessarily agreeing with that message. But again, you don't know that unless you investigate and talk to people involved. And again, if you're seeing something that you don't agree with, if you're willing to do it, you can talk to them and find out.
Yeah, I mean, I give an example just came up during this really bad period. I had a friend of mine. He's a meme happy individual. He loves actually sending out, his little statements, political. He basically fired off something that there was no other way around it. It was racist. It was massively racist. The thing is, instead of just completely writing him off, I sent him a message. I had him explain what's up with what you actually sent. What he told me with his words was different than the meme. Okay. He saw, in this case, since the meme was two pictures, he saw one of the pictures, and that's the thing that bothered him. He didn't see the other picture. When I told him the connection between the two pictures and what made it racist, he was like, oh my goodness. I didn't really mean that. I was just upset by, I could understand what he was upset by when he talked with me. And I am trying to teach him to stop using memes to actually express himself. Because just use your words. If you don't like something, use your words. Memes, don't sit there and give context. In this particular case, once I made him realize he'd actually crossed the serious line, he removed the meme. He apologized to everybody for it. He did explain the reason why. He did explain why he'd actually done it. Same thing he'd done with me, but he apologized for having said something that's actually going to be hurting people, which is, as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what I really wanted out of my friend. Okay. Just because he made a mistake with one meme, and I didn't want to sit there and actually just say, throw out the friendship with, throw out the baby with the bathwater. Now, that's something that a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing. And it's a lot easier to discount people, without being able to be face to face with them. They'll make their statement and then they'll double down on it because they don't have to actually see you. In those cases, you can make your decision on what you want to do. And me, I've just started blocking at this point, just because I don't want to turn them into Facebook jail automatically. I'm really tempted to do in a couple of cases. And if I block for 30, it'll just, it'll lower my blood pressure. I'll be okay.
Yep. Totally hear that.
So, and one of the key points that Mahadi's already brought up is that, when you're trying to resolve a conflict, what does the hurt party, is who I would start with, what do they expect? Okay. So someone said something bad about me. What do you expect? And most people will say, I want an apology or a public apology. Now, does that mean they're going to get it? Well, the answer is no. Okay. Someone may apologize in private. And what will happen is that the person who usually has been hurt can then say, well, someone comes up and says, I saw the post on you. I don't think that's right. And then that person can say, hopefully will say, well, that person privately apologized and, we need to move forward. Most people who are attacked publicly want a apology publicly. Now, and that's frankly to be expected, but you're not necessarily going to get it. I mean, people will kind of halfway apologize, saying I was partly wrong, but I was partly right when I said it. So, I call that the half-hearted apologize. And is it a public apology? Technically it is. And that's all you get. So but there are times when, and you have two parties who have conflict and no one's going to apologize. I believe what I believe. I saw what I saw. I think what I think, and that's not wrong. And both parties will have to basically agree to disagree. And unless something has been broken by, policy or Gapora or kingdom law, there's not a whole lot people can do. Okay, so yeah, I'll give you an example. I can say, and this is not true, by the way. I hate His Grace Mahadi, and I can say that only because Mahadi's a good friend of mine. As he smiles, I can say I hate him. Okay, is that hate speech? No, that's a personal opinion about somebody else. Okay, does that mean that it should go to the crown? Well, no, you can send it, but there's not a lot of action here. That's my personal opinion about somebody else. And you have to really think about what you're trying to escalate to. And unless Mahadi came back and said, well, I know he doesn't hate me. He talks to me all the time, like my Zoom meeting. So, just another example. You have to be aware of what the accusation or hurtful message is and how it's portrayed and what it says. And that will really help you to determine how you can resolve the conflict. So in my case, that's a personal. So that is something for conflict resolution, but it's at a different level than say, something like I hate all blacks, and I publicly say that. That's racism. That's hate speech. Okay, that's against Gapora. Okay, now if you choose to report it, you certainly can, but no one's forcing you to report it. So it's up to the individual to do that. Okay.
Part of what Richard's actually getting into, one of the problems of trying to get people to resolve issues is a perspective issue. It's the blind man and the elephant thing. They're seeing the same situation, but they're seeing it from different positions. As such, because the way we actually are, we believe our perspective is the one true perspective. When you're trying to get people to resolve the issues, it's important to try to get them to, do you understand why this person over here felt this way or why they did this? Can you understand that much? When you get them to actually understand that, you can get close to them actually resolving the issue to everybody's satisfaction. It's when a person doesn't feel that they've been heard is when you're going to be likely to have them say, I need somebody to step in here and do something.
So something that, what we're talking about is really what we're going to do in our second class. And that is talking about the ways and tools to resolve conflict. What we wanted to really show you today is, okay, this is what's in Gapora, this is what's in kingdom law. That's already documented. Usually it does have to do with officers doing something wrong. Okay. The other meeting, which we're going to have on Thursday, if I'm correct, I believe I'm correct. Okay. There's people shaking their heads. That's really resolving conflict, period. Now, the conflict can be something that was, handled by Gapora or something that's not handled by Gapora, because we all know there are Facebook posts out there in social media that are personal and people have taken the wrong way and unliked other people for this and unliked people for that. We will be presenting some tools to help a mediator, and you have to understand, I'm talking to the people on this call, whether you're willing to mediate or not. Because if you're willing to mediate, that's a wonderful thing, but you have to not take sides. And when someone says something that you really do not agree with, it's very hard to be impartial. And Landed and Crown know exactly what I'm talking about. We all have people we like, okay? And we all have things that we like to hear or don't agree with. It's very hard to be impartial. And I have seen fights between landed nobility where the crown came in and basically said, "You're being childish. You are attacking this person, and you don't like them, and that's fine. You don't have to like them. You have to work with them, and this is the end of it, and we're going forward." So, but we'll talk about conflict resolution in the next class on Thursday. And Mahadi, if you disagree, please chime in.
Oh, no. The idea behind the session next Thursday is going to be primarily being able to use mediation as a tool. Idea is to actually review the basics of mediation, how it's actually used, also to potentially promote an actual service here within the particular kingdom. Since I foresee the need, we've been needing mediation, serious mediation for some time. Being able to give people the option to be able to solve the problem before it actually gets to the local officer or the landed baron or crown or, God forbid, the board. If we can actually, because if mediation is done correctly, okay, and when it's done correctly, everybody involved is satisfied with the results, okay, if it's done correctly. So hopefully, not hopefully, we will actually give you the particular details of that particular tool. And if we choose to use it, fine. Considering I've had used the tool, I've had to use it for several sessions. I just recently had to do with a mediation in this kingdom. It's not too difficult, but you do have to have a mindset of I can empathize with, but I cannot be the center of this entire thing. These two people are the ones having the issue. They have to be the ones to come to the conclusion. I can lead them there, but they have to come to the conclusion. And when done correctly and done well, you can get people there.
We have a question, I think.
Do we have a group of mediators in the society already?
As far as I know, no. And I personally, I don't know if we can actually have within society. I would like to aim to have one a set in this kingdom.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah,
just something where, and granted, if we do have the people, where they're going to have to be trained. Okay,
Oh, of course.
We're going to have enough within the various regions so that they don't get all set on fire, because who knows how many many problems we're seeing as of late. We may get overburned to be worse than the scribes at this point.
Mahadi,
true story.
if you want to hear something interesting, I have with my social circles, I have talked with people from a number of kingdoms at this point on many topics, not this one. In several kingdoms, conflict resolution is considered the purview of the office of the herald.
Interesting.
Yeah, I got another Cisco. You said we got to hear another job now? Really?
I'm not saying. Now, hang on. There's an interesting bit of logic here. Now, first of all, I am not saying we should approach it that way.
You volunteer?
No, I don't volunteer. I am the guy you send in when you want to declare war, not prevent it. However, in other kingdoms and in Ansteora, the offices of the herald or someone who is privately contracted as a herald is given the benefit of diplomatic immunity. They are capable of walking into and out of circles that most of us would either be asked to leave or our oaths would prevent us to. I can walk into if I'm delivering a message, I can walk into a belted circle in Meridies and deliver the message. You would not be so fortunate as a knight sworn to Ansteora.
Maybe I won't, but I'll still do it because.
But you're a herald. But you see what I'm saying? It's an interesting formality play, and I mention that here not because I want to suddenly hand our college a bunch of extra work. No, I'm not saying that. But when we talk about conflict resolution and who would be the conflict resolvers, maybe if we include heraldry in the discussion, that will force people to think outside the box and maybe look at other what we would consider unorthodox options.
Tostic, what do you think? I know you're on here. You're being silent.
Yes. No, he said I think he's going to stay silent.
Well, he's
What you got?
he's live.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't think Star would go for that.
Oh,
That's
Star.
It's point number one.
Yeah, Star
Point
would
number
kill me if I
two.
said that to her, and I'm not.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should, just to be clear.
And
No,
point number two, the College of Heralds has its own reputation problems.
oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's
Realize
true.
that all of our classes are talking about the customer is always right, the customer is always right. In previous discussion we had, we were talking about consultation tables.
Mhm.
I talked about how when I couldn't, I handed it off to another herald because I knew our viewpoints would be totally different.
Mhm.
I don't think involving the college would probably be a terribly good idea. Other kingdoms probably view the College of Heralds the way we view peers or lions.
Mm.
Okay.
I would think it would fall underneath the seneschal, if anything, but
I agree.
The problem with it, if you involve the seneschal, then it becomes a seneschal issue. So
oh yeah,
if you
that's
involve
true.
the seneschal, then it becomes reviewed by the kingdom and Gapora seneschal. So it automatically jumps from being a low-level conflict to being something that can be escalated up very quickly. I'm not saying
Gotcha.
that's bad. I'm just saying that once the seneschal touches it and they get involved, then it can be reviewed by the seneschal.
It almost sounds like something you would want to include as part of the either written or unwritten charter of either the peers, the grants, or the lions, depending on how exclusive you wanted to make that.
And Ivo, you do have a point there though about why it would be involved with the heraldic offices, because we do have that extra line of privacy. I mean, we can walk
Mhm.
it, and if we are a baronial herald or if we're working with the baron and baroness or the king, we always have that bit of confidence that we have to abide by, that anything that comes in whatever meeting we're in, we're not allowed to speak about it. And it's the same thing as entourage, same kind of
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
same thing. So
To be fair, on a cultural level, as someone who's traveled as much as I have, not putting myself above anyone else, but I'm comfortable saying, Anstior approaches almost any subject starkly differently than any other kingdom I've ever experienced. I mean, just the other day, it was in the plenary meeting. Or no, it wasn't the plenary. It was the service-minded individuals meeting at Red Tape. The kingdom, I think it was the Kingdom Hospitaller, was thunderstruck at one of my statements. And it wasn't that there was anything wrong with my statement, her position, but her position and mine, she had trouble wrapping around her. And how could we approach it this way? And I'm like, honey, it's on Stiora. This is the default assumption.
It's interesting when you brought that up. I did checking on some other kingdom websites. I think constabulary is a unofficial name because there is no official constable that I could find in any other kingdom. That doesn't mean that it's not something that's widely used. It's just not official.
It used to be a warranted office because I remember them talking about a warrant for the Moonshadow Constable expiring, and that was right as I started in fall of '97.
I was involved in the Shadowlands, and there was a constable in Shadowlands for a while.
Yeah, and I remember in the steps when we had the torch-bearing mob that was being led by a constable. And no, I'm serious. It was an actual torch-bearing mob. They were going to actually ride somebody out of the event site, and it had to be mediated by a police officer.
And that's why we don't have constables
And
anymore.
that's why we don't have
It's worse than mall cops.
Exactly.
Just take one.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of who would take on the, all right, let me phrase this a different way because I'd be talking out of turn otherwise. If I were looking for someone to mediate a disagreement, and I know Mahadi and Katarina at the dead minimum are aware of some of my epic arguments that have lasted decades. I think my first criteria would be who is someone I trust and respect, and then my second criteria is going to be who is someone my opposite is going to respect. I don't necessarily care if they trust them, but if this guy puts his fist on his hip and said, "Sit down, shut up, we're going to figure this out." I need someone the other guy's going to listen to, because I have had, and again, not trying to stir up dark water, but I have had situations where an aggressor just refused to mediate. He's like, "No, you don't have enough clout to force me around. I'm going to continue to make your life a living hell because I think you deserve it." So that would be my criteria. Is it needs, I don't care what the rank is. Rank may factor in, it may not, but it needs to be someone the other side is going to listen to.
Well, in all mediation efforts I've been involved with, it almost always starts with the two parties understanding that if mediation is not actually used, we're going to be using this formal process and somebody's going to be upset. We're going to give you your first shot at actually solving this. Now, and sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's initiated by one or two parties. You can convince people that, okay, you can, it's like going to court, right? You can either take your dispute to court, you can bring forward a jury and a judge, and once you put it in their hands, they're going to do it based upon a set of rules on the side, okay, to the impartial. Instead, how about if we get together and we do something that normally doesn't take place in a court, which is, let's going to listen to both of you. We're going to listen to what you have to say about this issue. Now, if you believe that you can solve this problem by listening to the other person, you're good. If you don't think it's going to work, that's fine. But you already know what direction you're going in, what you're going to be doing in that regard. If we go by what the Gapora and Kingdom law states, if you run it up particular chain and it goes all the way to the highest level, we know you're not going to be happy about the solution. I have yet to see anybody given a board solution that they're, for the most part, saying, "Oh, I'm absolutely fine with it." They can be kind of, but more times than not, they lose out on something. It's something that they could have gotten settled easily at a lower level.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We have enough problems with the board coming off decisions. They're just making about policy.
Yeah.
Now you're going to make them judge and jury.
Mhm.
You're not going to like it. Usually you never do. Or the evidence is usually so overwhelming, they're only going to do one thing. And that's, you're going to say bye-bye to the SCA. So.
And in the decision-making process of finding that particular individual to be that mediator, they really need to be on a neutral ground with whatever people are involved on their end.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's hard to find people that are neutral. I mean, there are people that can make themselves neutral, or that people. So I'm just using this as an example. Don't
Another example. Yeah.
I say that disclaimer. Let's say you have a racist remark, okay, and somebody wants to involve His Grace Mahadi. Well, as the mediator.
Oh,
Okay.
that'd be tough. Yeah.
That would be tough. So sometimes it is hard to find a mediator that is acceptable to both people. So one of the things that we'll talk about in the next meeting is perhaps the Crown should, or it can also be the Kingdom Seneschal, but create a number of mediators per region that would be a list for people to choose from. And they would be randomly assigned, and what would happen is there would be a mediator gatekeeper. So basically, the issue comes in to the gatekeeper for mediation, and the gatekeeper will decide whether or not that's something that he or she thinks really should be mediated, or if this is really a personal problem that has it's really a personal opinion and has no business dealing with mediation at all. It's just as simple that they have a bad taste in their mouth because someone did not get an award, is an example. That's
Richard?
not really something for mediation. Go ahead.
Just from a professional standpoint, when I had to study mediation in college, one of the situations that I know the states of Texas and Oklahoma use for professional mediation is there are several organizations that offer professional mediation services. What they do is they offer a list of mediators, and the two aggrieved parties will just start ticking people off the list until they both agree on someone. One side gets the
Exactly,
first
yeah.
cut, and they'll just go down the line until they come down with someone they either both like or both hate equally less than everyone else. That's how the Firefighters Union of Oklahoma managed to not strike the last 10 times the contract came under contest. So I just throw that out from my knowledge base.
No, you're correct. Whenever when we're starting any type of mediation process, both parties have to agree that this is the person who's going to help guide them through it. If we got that body of people within the kingdom who said, I want to volunteer to actually do this, yes, we have to know what their particular individual qualities are, because if they're going to be asked to mediate something, for example, if I'm going to be involved in a particular mediation, I'll be honest, you really shouldn't involve me with mediation involving SHIV, okay? Especially if it's a SHIV and a non-SHIV. Honestly, as much as people want to say I'm honest, the fact is I already have one dog in this hunt. Okay, people getting a situation mediate, they want to have a feeling here's a person who is not connected to us in any way, who's going to help guide us to a solution.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to have the qualities of particular mediators. Also, when a person's asked for mediation, we have to know enough about them and their interests, so we don't have too many people, have any crazy overlap. And if somebody's an archer, for example, if we have a mediator who's another archer, we got to disqualify that person. Say, as much as you want them being involved, you may know them in this capacity. The other person would either have to agree and say you're going to let them have that particular advantage, or you can find somebody else on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Have to watch households too.
Oh yes, like you said, this is part of, if we did want to set this up, we'd have to be able to say, what are the things we want to identify? People want to identify about themselves, or want identified for mediators, about mediators, so that we can create that particular pool of people. It'd be interesting if we wanted to work that out. It'd be great.
All right. Well, guys, we are 15 after. So if there are no other questions or any,
We'll have Thursday again to talk. So
we will have Thursday again to talk.
Thank you both.
I appreciate you guys so much for your presentation tonight. It was awesome, and I look forward to Thursdays.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look forward
very
to
welcome.
the
Thanks,
sequel.
Mahadi.
Okay, I got to stop this.
Yeah, do you know how?
Yes, you have to stop talking, Mahadi.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to, but.